Hello, and welcome to A VO's Journey. My name is Anthony Pica. This show is all about helping the new and upcoming voiceover artists grow their business and sidestep all the crazy things that I seem to step on. I have a great show for you today. I posted on the YouTube channel in the comments or in the personal question or the questions for the community tab, because there's actually a community section now on A VO's Journey in the YouTube channel where I can post questions and things to the group. And we had a great question that came in, and that was, hey Anthony, how do you process your audio for voiceover? So I thought I would take this opportunity to show you guys quickly how I process my audio and that you could do the same. All right, so let's go ahead and jump over to the actual Adobe Audition, which is my DAW. And by the way, the process I'm going to show you here today, even though I'm doing it in Adobe Audition, you can still do it in any, in Reaper and Studio One, Audacity, because in the end, it is the same set of the same process from point A to point B to point C that you use no matter where you edit and master your audio or you process your audio. We're just the only thing that changes is where you find the things. Okay. All right, so let's go through this step-by-step process, all right? It's actually very quick and easy, and I want you to know that when I first started, everything was way harder because I didn't know what I was doing, all right? Which is probably why the question was sent to me, and it took me a lot longer to do things because I just didn't know the right process. So here we go. The very first thing you do before you start, all right, is you want to make sure your settings are right when it comes to the volume, or your gain is set correctly so that when you record, you are recording in between -12 right here and -6. That's what you want to record in as an average. So on Adobe Audition, there is a little meter down here. If I double click that, all right, it actually shows me where I am recording in between. And as you can see right here, it's pretty decent in between -12 and -6. Does it peak above? Sure. And does it go below sometimes? Yes. But in general, we're staying right in between. All right. So now that I know that that is where it needs to be, all right, I'm set to go. If I wasn't set and it was lower, I would raise the gain. So it's in between -12, which is right here, and -6. Or if it's above too far, like if I'm redlining too much, I would lower it. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and dive into this. I'm going to go ahead and click that off. And now I'm going to record something. This is me recording so that we can use this audio as a test for today's video on YouTube. Okay. So I went ahead and recorded that. And of course, you can see this is a little bit above here, so I'm going to go ahead and lower that. So if you find that you're recording and you're seeing it going out, you might want to be quieter. Now, I think it's when I do YouTube videos, I get excited, so I'm louder than I generally am when I do voiceovers, because I'm not this loud when I do voiceovers. So, you know, this is a good, in your mind, you could tell by if you're peaking or you're clipping going off over 0, right? You know that's not good. But in general, this is a nice WAV file that is not edited or anything, right? Meaning that it's not super low. I've worked with people where their audio is so low that they have to raise it up so high, like the volume up so high that it starts to degrade the audio. It sounds like it sounds staticky and it sounds like clippy. It just sounds poor, right? So the first thing is you want to record your audio so that it doesn't sound, it's set in the perfect place. All right. So now that we have our audio set in the perfect place, all right, which is and again, it doesn't mean that it doesn't go above -6, but generally speaking, between -12 and -6 is where I want to see the majority of it. Okay. All right. Now, the very first thing we do when we have audio that we've just recorded is we're going to EQ it. That's the first thing we do. So I like to use just a simple EQ. I go to parametric equalizer, and I like the setting loudness maximizer. All right. Basically, what it does is it adds a high shelf and a low shelf. Okay. So basically, it boosts the high ends and it boosts the lower ends, so that it's a little warm. Okay. Can you go further in depth with your EQ? Absolutely, because each space is different, and it would be kind of crazy for me to try to EQ your space when I don't know what your space is. However, I do have some other tutorials about EQing space and stuff on the channel, and I'll be doing more in the future. But generally speaking, a lot of the presets are good for you when you're just getting started, and they're actually pretty good in general. So I'm going to go ahead and EQ it with the loudness maximizer and hit apply. So the first thing you want to do is EQ. All right, I hit apply. The next thing I want to do is I want to compress my work, okay? And the reason is because you can see I've got some really high ends and some really low ends. And I want to make sure that the audio over the total piece sounds fuller, okay? More dynamic, okay? So that the lower ends aren't too low and the higher ends aren't too high, so that it's closer together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Effects, and for me, I like to use the single band compressor. Now, what the single band compressor means is that just simply means that I'm going to compress everything, okay, across the board the same. I'm not going to take a certain set of frequencies and compress them a certain way, compress another set of frequencies a certain way, right? Because you can get into multi-band compression, which does exactly that. But for our purposes, we're just keeping this simple. So I'm just going to use a single band compressor. I'm going to set the threshold at -10.1. So that basically means that, you know, I'm setting the threshold at anything that goes below that, below -10.1, all right, I want to start the compression process, okay? And the ratio, okay, for that compression is every 1 decibel that's below, we're going to raise it 2.6 dB. Okay, so that's basically what it is. The tack and release, and these are things that show you how intense you compress, right? Like how harsh the compression is, or is it more of a subtle compression, all right? And the output gain would mean basically after I compress it, do I want to raise the gain, right? Do I want to like add gain to it so we actually raise the overall volume? I have that set at 0.8, but honestly, you know what I mean? You can really have that at 0. So these are pretty much the good settings to start at. All right, I'm going to hit apply. All right, and as you've seen, okay, it's lowered some of the top end, all right, and it's lower, and it's pulled up some of the bottom end, okay? So that's the compression side. So now that I've EQ'd and I've compressed, I've done all of the work that I want to do to the audio before I move on to actually cleaning up now the audio, okay? So I've done all the editing to the audio for making it sound better. Now what I want to do is I want to move on to taking out some of the bad parts of the audio. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to get rid of any mouth clicks. Now, depending on what you have and what you don't have, I specifically use a plugin, okay, from Izotope. All right, basically it is, you have RX8 mouth declick. All right, you might have RX7, RX6 or whatever, but RX8 is the latest one, and I have the standard version of RX8, not the elements. I have the standard version, okay, which allows you to use the mouth declick, okay? So if I use the mouth declick, all right, basically, what is this? This is, okay. So I use the mouth declick here. Wait, get out of here. What is this? Cancel. Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry. So anyways, you have the standard version of, you know what? Just that was a thing. So when you just buy it, you have to get into it. I've been using RX7. So it doesn't matter which one you have because they all work really well. Okay. But this, I think, is still the demo version for RX8. So anyways, I like to set mine at about 5.5. And what you'll notice is that as I play this, you'll see this little clicks repaired right here. This is going to go through and show you how much it's repairing. This is me recording so that we can use this on. All right, so you can see right there, right, that it's recording. You know what? Forget that. We're going to use the one that I actually have set up, which is RX7. They're not any different. It's just a newer version. All right, so I own RX7. So you can see. So that we can use this audio as. So right there, we've got that set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit apply. All right, and that does away with the clicks. All right, your mouth clicks. I can't tell you how much as a newbie, when I first started, how much time, ridiculous time I spent on removing mouth clicks. And if you know what I'm talking about, it is ridiculous. Now, if you don't have this, you're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. So basically what you do is you come in here and you're going to listen, all right, to this, all right. Hold on. Let me go back. We're going to...
This is me.
Okay, so you're going to listen to this, and I use this down here, which basically is another window. It's called Spectral Frequency Display. You can click this on or off, all right, and this shows you, okay, a display of kind of almost like a heat map that shows you where the frequencies are over here, and the volume or the loudness and things of those frequencies, all right, in your voice, which is pretty cool. But more importantly, what it shows you is areas in the audio, like this right here. You see these two straight lines or this line right here, all right? This can show you, all right, clicks or audio that does not sound, that is not proper, all right, that we can remove. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. Here's a perfect example, all right? That's an easy one to see. You can see there's a click right here, all right, and what I'm going to do is up here, all right, I literally I have the Marquee Selection tool, which allows me down here to put like you can see a rectangle over this box. Now up here, all right, I have under effects, I have a tool here that's called Auto Heal. Now on Audacity, they do have an Auto Heal as well under their effects place. It doesn't work as well, I'm sorry to say, as it does on Adobe Audition, but you still have one, and I'm pretty sure that they've got something similar on Reaper and Studio One. But basically for this, all I do is hit Auto Heal, and it heals the area around it. Now I want to point out something. Do you notice how it didn't take away this extra the frequencies down here? So that's the beauty about this. So what it does is it takes into consideration all of the frequencies around it, and then it heals that so it doesn't get rid of it. So here you go. You got another kind of weird click maybe right here. So if I come here, now I have, by the way, I have that key bound on C, but just for purposes, we won't go there today. We'll just do auto heal. You'll notice, see that? All right, it pulled out some of it, but you see it didn't silence it. All right, it just healed that section so that when you play it, okay, it doesn't actually degrade the audio. It just takes out the click, and it still sounds good, but without the click. So that's a great way to do it, and I still have that in my toolbox, all right, when I try to, when there's a specific thing that maybe the declicker didn't get. All right, so again, I'm going to go back here because we went back. I'm going to do the declicker, right, or remember, it's mouth declick. There's a regular declick. That's not good enough. That comes with elements. All right, you want the standard version. It comes with the mouth declick. All right, you come here. I go ahead and run that through. Great. All right, now going back, now that I've taken care of the mouth clicks, I want to go in here and take care of the background noise. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into my effects, and I like to use the Izotope plugin Voice Denoise. Okay, and basically what this does is I have it in adaptive mode. When I do this, all right, so you can see basically,
so that we can use,
you can see that what it's doing is it's showing the output of what people like, what the what I'm saying, and then it's also showing where the baseline is of the background noise, so that when it reduces the noise, all right, which you can see up here, you can determine how much reduction you want. Okay, I have it at 15.7 decibels and noise reduction on the point where the threshold is at 2.2. Okay, so if I hit apply, okay, you can see now it's reduced some of the background noise. Now this over here, this is probably because I was talking, so I'll just delete that section. But you can see the background noise has been reduced. Now, at this point, I do one more thing. I come in here and I go to Dynamics Processing, okay? And basically, all right, this is what Dynamics Processing is, all right? You are going to have if I come here and I push this, all right, you're going to see that right here, even down here, if I look at this, this is telling me what my noise floor is. But let's be honest, that's not really my noise floor because I hit Denoise. So let's go back to before I hit that, and let's go ahead and hit this right here, and I'm going to go ahead, that's on loop, so that I can see it in repeating. You could tell, so you could tell that my noise floor is actually more so right around -47. Now that's probably beeping up because it's hitting a point, but let's say it's at -47. Okay, so what I want to do, all right, I'm going to go back, I add voice denoise, okay, but I'm going to go into my effects, go to Dynamics Processing, go to here, I'm going to click on the line, then I'm going to right-click, edit point, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to hit -47, okay? Now, what that's done, all right, is it's shown me, it's put me at the point where it's -47, all right? What I like to do is I like to come down here to 85 or about 80, all right? I like to put a point down at 80. Now, what I'm going to do, all right, is you're going to see this because we're going to reduce that volume, all right? We've got it on loop, so check this out. As I reduce this, all right, what I'm doing is I'm compressing now. I'm compressing this volume underneath -47 dB, okay, which is actually up a little bit more, okay, and everything under that I'm compressing. So as you can see, now we are below -72 dB, okay, so it's pretty impressive. So at this point, and since it's at -47, nothing above -47 will be touched. So if I go ahead and hit apply, you can see what? It's gotten rid of all of the background noise. We don't remember, that's that extra part that we don't need. All the background noise that we needed, okay? At this point, the audio is completely finished and ready to go, okay? It is done. Now, in case that your audio was not recorded at a high enough volume, all right, and maybe your audio looks like this, okay? What you want to do is, I love this little selection tool right here, okay? And basically what it does is this allows me to actually raise the entire volume of the whole piece. See, so I'm raising this up to about here. Now, you just saw that I did that manually. The reality is most of us, all right, we've heard this thing called Normalize, okay? So basically, if I was to come over here, I go to Amplitude and Compression, and I go to Normalize, all right, that pulls this up, and it gives me a couple of options. Now, I could say normalize to -1 dB, which basically means that when I hit apply, the highest peak, which is about right here, so it's at about negative, you know, let's see, what is it at? It's about at -8 or so, all right? It's going to raise this and everything else up until it gets to -1, okay? But here's the thing. When you normalize something, it just raises everything equally. So if you have something like, for example, if this was a higher peak like that, all right, and then I went to normalize like we just did, what you'll see is, all right, is you'll see that when I hit normalize, it's going to raise all this up equally, but it's going to stop when this gets up to here. So look. So, okay, so great. See, so it stopped when it got to -1. So you can see it did normalize everything, but you can see how this piece is way, way higher than everything else. But if I come back here and I switch that back to where it is, and now I go to the normalize effect again, and I go to -1, you're going to see, since that's lower, watch this. All right, can you see how it's raised the audio all the way around so much more? Because it raises the highest peak to -1 dB. If the highest peak is like, you know, too high, sometimes I've seen it reduce the volume because it's over -1. So that's why I like to do it manually and don't like to worry about normalize. However, if you use the process I just showed you, normalization works great. Okay, so now this file is it's loud, it's good. Look, we don't have background noise. Let's take a listen.
This is me recording so that we can use this audio as a test for today's video on YouTube.
It sounds pretty darn good for a space that's not really treated or on a dynamic microphone while we're doing a YouTube video. It sounds pretty darn good. And then all I would do is I would take the file, I would hit Save As. I've saved it as a test. Now on Adobe Audition, it always pre-saves as a WAV file. And I would pick the folder in which I'd want it to go. So in this case, let's see, I would, we're just going to pick the desktop. All right, I'm going to hit save there. So now it goes to the desktop. It's a WAV file. I like to save it at 48,000 hertz. Okay, and this is at 16 bits. Okay, and it's a WAV file. All right, if you're going to save it as an MP3 file, all right, I like to save it still at 48,000, but I like the kilobits per second or the kbps to be 192, and then and that's the constant bit rate. Okay, so same thing, you would save it and you hit save. It tells you, since I'm saving it as an MP3, that it's going to compress it. And there you go. We have done the full process from beginning to end. All right. And the cool thing is that if you do this enough, you can learn on Adobe Audition, and I'm sure you can do this on Reaper and other places, where you can actually come in here and do favorites, where you can actually record. You can hit that record button here under favorites, do all of that process I just showed you. When you're done, hit stop recording and actually go into edit, go down to keyboard shortcuts. This pulls up your keyboard, and you can actually type in the name of the favorite you just made, okay, because it'll ask you to save it. And then once you type it in, it'll come up here, and you literally will drag and drop that into one of these buttons. And then once you hit OK, all you have to do is press that button, and it does all that entire process for you. It's pretty darn cool. All right, listen, I hope that this has helped you. And, you know, it doesn't have to be harder than that. Let's go ahead and pull this up and go back to the main section. There we go. So it really doesn't. It doesn't have to be harder than that. Now, I want to point out two more things before we go. And I know this is a little longer video. But the big thing is you noticed what took out a big chunk of time. That was having the Izotope's RX7 or RX8 mouth declicker and mouth denoise, right? That took out a big chunk of time. Because usually I would have had to go through that whole piece and pick out each click, each random, you know, mouth noise that was problematic, and that takes time. But by having that plugin, it totally did it for me easily. And the mouth declick, not the declick. Listen here. The mouth declick does not degrade your audio, where the declick was originally set up, I think, for getting, you know, static and clicks off from like records and stuff. The declick, can it work for your voice? Sure. The reason why I'm telling you this is because the Elements is a lot cheaper than the standard version, and the standard version is expensive. I mean, sometimes they have sales, especially with Christmas here. Sometimes you can get it for $99. Sometimes it costs $399. But I can tell you, if you're new or you've been in this business for a while, you know what I'm talking about. The single biggest time sucker is getting rid of mouth noise. That's the biggest time sucker out of everything. Everything you do, that's the biggest one. So if you have a fast way to do it, it is worth its weight in gold. So those two things, and mouth denoise, I mean, you can do without the mouth denoise, but the mouth declicker, honestly, is a must to move your audio along, okay? So those are two things that I really recommend. That took off so much of the time. And of course, doing the process, EQ, compression, mouth declick, mouth denoise, using dynamic compression to get rid of some of the rest of the lower end, you know, room tone that might be, you know, bleeding over, and then normalizing or raising it manually to where it's up to -1 that the peaks are, which I like to do because I'm submitting finished audio. Some people might say, hey, you know, submit your audio between -3 dB and -6 dB. You know, that's fine. If you're having audio that people are taking and using separately. But if you are supposed to be putting out finished audio that someone's just going to take and use your audio, all right, I like to raise the volume. I've been burned before where I've not done that and people have come back and they've shown me what they've put together, and I'm so quiet. Like, you know, unless an engineer says, hey, we want you to do this, always submit your work as if it is absolutely 100% completed and ready to be used immediately, okay? All right, you guys, thank you so much. Hey, if you wouldn't mind doing me a favor, post some comments below about more questions about, you know, whether it's Adobe Audition or whether it's editing and mastering and things like that. I'd love to answer some more questions on it. I think this is one of the things for me that has allowed me to do so much more work and so much quicker, having this process, moving it along, because before, when I first started, it took forever, but now it's so much quicker. And if you do have a moment, please hit that like and subscribe button. All right, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Goodbye.